Hey travelers, Marcello here from Wandering Trader. Today we're going to be talking about the best countries to learn how to speak Spanish. We are here, this is actually my trading center. Obviously you guys know that I have a day trading academy where we teach people how to trade. So this is actually the physical space. I wanted to do it in an exotic location, but this video just occurred to me, so I wanted to go ahead and get this video out. So just to give you a little bit of my background of why my opinion matters. I was born in Venezuela. I moved to the US when I was about 6 or 7 years old, so Spanish actually is my first language. And I have lived in almost every single country in Latin America. South America and Mexico is a big one. I haven't lived in Mexico, but I visited pretty recently. So being in this part of the world for, I don't know, I've been traveling now for 8 or 9 years, and I think I've been here in Latin America for probably 5 or 6 of them, or maybe even 4 of them. Yeah, maybe 5 or 6. So I don't want to offend anybody with my personal opinions. One thing I want to say, I did a few videos about learning how to speak certain types of Spanish. And obviously, in my opinion, there's some Spanish that are good, others that are bad. I don't want to offend anybody because obviously the keyboard warriors here on YouTube got really offended when I say somebody doesn't speak good Spanish. Obviously, it's a matter of personal preference. I think that some are understood better than others, some are clearer than others. You guys should know that I live here in Colombia, so I'm here a lot. And so I'm going to give you guys the list of all the countries that I believe are actually the best countries to learn from. I'm going to get my notes out here for a second, just kind of to go ahead and get the list. I don't know if I should go from top to bottom or if I should go bottom to top. So I'm just going to go ahead and start. I think it really depends most of all on what you're looking for as a priority. So the quote-unquote formal Spanish is Castilian Spanish, which is from Spain. I don't recommend that you go to Spain to learn how to speak Spanish because one, in Latin America, they don't really like it. It's okay, obviously, but if you guys haven't seen the Russell Peters joke, definitely look it up, Russell Peters Spanish joke. It's not really the coolest thing, let's just say that. So it's okay for Europe, but if you learn how to speak Latin American Spanish, the basic difference between the two is there's a lot of different types of Spanish. For example, in the English language, correct me if you guys are wrong here on the comment section if you want, but mostly in the English language we can understand each other because mostly we use the same words, it's just different accents, right? It's everything from an American accent to an American New York or Boston or California accent, or a British accent, an Ireland accent, Irish accent, a Scottish accent, Australian, South African, but we still use the same language. Spanish is just like that. So there's a lot of different accents and ways to say things. A lot of words that are used are a little bit different. It's kind of like saying color or couleur, or if that's how you spell it anyway, in British or Canadian English. So for the most part, the language or the words that you're going to learn and the system is going to be worldwide. The only thing that's different is the accents. And in my opinion, the Spanish accent isn't the best one to learn. One of the downsides, obviously, of learning Spanish in Spain is it is terribly expensive in Spain. If you are going to go to one city of Spain, obviously Barcelona is an option, Madrid. I really like Sevilla in the south, or the west, I guess you can say southwest. That city just has a vibe for me. I don't know what it is. I really trust my instinct when it comes to cities. So if you're going to go there, I recommend there. It's probably a little bit cheaper, more laid back. It's a nicer city. There's more going on. Whereas Madrid and Barcelona, they have a little bit of that regionalistic kind of personalities to them. So that's the first one I'll talk about, even though I don't recommend it. So the cheapest option, in my opinion, is going to be either Peru or Argentina. Peru, because wages are significantly lower. I was very surprised years ago when I first got to Peru. I was expecting it to be completely backwards because of the rumors that I heard. In my opinion, or the things that I heard, Bolivia and Peru were just basket cases, right? So that is the case for Bolivia. Peru, it was surprisingly clean and functioning, and it was great. So Peru has a great kind of expat vibe. Argentina as well, especially Buenos Aires. I think the only difference between the two, if you're looking for a more cosmopolitan city that has a lot more cultural stuff going on, I'd say Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires, to me, the capital of Argentina, is probably a little bit more expensive than Lima. I think the cheapest option is probably going to be Lima or one of the towns, beach towns, you know, in Peru. Other options in Argentina is Mendoza, the wine country. That's another city that I kind of have a heart for. It has a really good vibe. I don't want to say that it's an American in culture, but it's kind of because it's so close to Chile, it has kind of American influence. Let's put it that way. They don't speak English, obviously, but that's just my personal opinion, my humble opinion, traveling 8 or 9 years around the world. So the only thing with Argentina is they have the accent, right? The sh 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 sh. You know, in Spanish, if you say "cómo te llamas," in Argentina they say "cómo te llamas."
Dale. Che, boludo, vamos a salir.
Dale.
Oh, tengo fleas. Tuvimos un quilombo anoche. Che, boludo.
Che, boludo. In Argentina, they have a very Italian kind of sounding accent. So I'm okay with the accent. I personally, you know, I'm fine. So if you want to learn that accent, it's fine. Buenos Aires can get a little bit pricey depending where you go. I think I did a video recently about the cost of living in Buenos Aires. Maybe I'll do another one when I get there. But other than that, those are kind of the second and third tier options. For actual formalities of using what most people are going to understand, I think the best options are going to be Colombia, Venezuela, and Argentina. Venezuela obviously is out of the table because that country right now is in basket case mode. Colombia for me would be the best option for you guys to go to. I have, after living around the world for 8 or 9 years of traveling, I decided to settle in Medellin, Colombia. I have a business here. You know, my girlfriend is Australian, but she lives here. It's a beautiful city. It's an absolutely beautiful, beautiful city, and I just think it's paradise. It's still relatively cheap as well, with the dollar being so high. I think most of the countries in Latin America are going to be pretty cheap. So I would actually recommend Colombia. I would avoid the coast because the accents there aren't the best, let's say. Bogota and Medellin, I'd probably say, are the best. Unless you want a little town like Manizales or Pereira, one of those small towns, I think in the coffee region, I think would be good as well. I prefer the Colombian accent. To me, the way that the Paisas, which are the region in Medellin, the way they speak Spanish, it's like French and English, right? It just sounds sexy.
Hola bebé, ¿qué más pues? ¿Vamos a salir o qué? Hola, ¿qué más pues? Ciao.
So that's just my personal opinion. And if you're a man, there's plenty of beautiful women here. Obviously, I don't condone prostitution or anything like that. Please don't come here for that. It's a beautiful city. They're beautiful people. But, well, I don't know about the men because, you know, I prefer women. But that's my top choice is Medellin, Colombia, to learn how to speak Spanish. Other than that, Mexico. You can learn how to speak Spanish in Mexico. I just personally don't prefer the accent from Mexico, the way that they speak it. They speak perfect Spanish, obviously, but it's not the best in my opinion, right? The best for me, obviously, would be Medellin. After that, I'd probably say, oh, it's a tough choice after that. I think it's like 1 and 2 or Medellin, and then after that, it's 3, 4, 5. So other than that, in Mexico, I've been to Mexico City quite a bit now because of business, for the trading that I do. So the training for day trading. Mexico City is a great city. At first I didn't like it. It's big, it's chaotic, there's a lot of pollution, but there's a lot of culture there. And it's still relatively cheap, to be honest with you, especially compared to American prices. So those are the places that I would actually recommend. I'm thinking, you know, in Mexico, you have Mexico City, you have all the beaches. I think Puerto Vallarta on the west coast, the Pacific side, you know, the area around Cancun, not Cancun specifically, but maybe Tulum, anywhere around the peninsula on the beaches are great as well. So, you know, go a little bit far away from Cancun so you don't get the tourism, because there's a ton of people that go to Cancun every year, especially for spring break. But for me, the best would really be Colombia, Venezuela, and Argentina. Those top countries, and by far I would choose Medellin as a top. I think it goes to show that I have traveled around the world for 8 or 9 years, and I have chosen here to kind of choose home. It's really cheap, especially with the dollar. If you're buying real estate here, you're gonna get a 35% discount on any property you buy because of the dollar, how high it is right now if you're renting or anything along those lines. One thing to note about most of these countries, except for Mexico, is you can come into the country and stay a maximum of 6 months in a calendar year. So that basically means January 1st to December 31st, unless you get a visa to learn Spanish, which is relatively easy in my opinion, at least in Colombia, because I've known a lot of people in Colombia that have gotten visas. In Mexico, the way I understand it, if you guys know better than I do, go ahead and leave comments here. What I understand is you can stay a maximum of 90 days every time you come in the country, unless you get a visa. So keep that in mind as well. So those for me are the actual best countries to learn how to speak Spanish. Top to bottom again, Colombia, Venezuela, Argentina. Obviously Venezuela you shouldn't go to right now because it's a bit of a mess. So that leaves Colombia and Argentina. Argentina was a mess previously. Now I think it's actually quite good. I wouldn't recommend Ecuador. I personally just think they're better places than Ecuador, even though they speak good quality Spanish there. But I guess for some of you guys can put that on the list. So that's about it, guys. If you have any questions, don't forget to leave them with the hashtag AskMarcello. Don't forget to subscribe here on the channel. We'll talk to you soon.